time to win the war that fights against all the lies invading my mind. You have brought me to my senses. Even though you built this world to shake, you still love me in a personal way. So I think it's time to leave my doubt behind. There's so much more than meets the eye. Oh, what's going on inside? I believe in something way beyond myself. Like the wind that moves the leaves, Lord, you move me to my knees. Giving into something way beyond myself. I'm giving into something way beyond myself.
Hi, this is my dog Sage, and she is a purebred registered yellow lab, and she is about a year old. She's still pretty young, but she's got quite a few tricks down. We don't really teach her like the fun tricks, like, you know, I don't know, basically just like, you know, roll over and stuff, because she's a bird dog, and we usually just teach her the basics, but they're very helpful to know, as you can see, because, you know, this way they can be able to stay and everything, and they're just important to learn. It's important to learn all these tricks, and as you can see, she's got her attention on me. She knows we're training. She knows she has to listen to me. Sit is a pretty basic one, probably the trick you should start your dog out with first. So for sit, for training, I would highly recommend you get this. It's a choke chain. And this is pretty much how we give her spankings when training. We just give her a little pop, and that's kind of showing her that that she can't, that she has to mind. So for sit, you're going to want to have your dog on this. It's best to start them out when they're a puppy. See, she already knows sit means food, but so Sage, come, sit. So when they're first starting out, what you're going to want to do is, when they're standing up, I don't know if she'll stay standing right now, but you're going to want to, here, stand up, Sage. You're going to want to push their bottom down and say sit. And nowadays, if we want her to sit, we usually just give her the command, the voice command, and if she doesn't mind, then she gets popped on the neck, which is kind of a punishment for not minding, and then if she does it good, then she gets a treat. So that's how you train them to sit. You just keep working on it, and they should eventually get it. That's that. All right, now I'm going to be showing you how to teach your dog to heel. Once they have sit down, you can start on this. This is very important. You're going to want to start out with a leash, and once they get well enough at it, then you can even just do it without a leash, which Sage is to that point, but for a new dog, you're definitely going to want one. And like I said, use a choke chain. So for heel, you're going to want to have your dog sitting beside you, always on your left side, and hold the leash like this. And then you're going to want to say heel, and start with your left foot and walk around. And if they start to wander off, you're going to want to jerk their neck to keep them by you. And whenever you stop, they should sit. So whenever you stop walking, tell them sit. And they should. It's kind of hard to demonstrate since she already knows everything. But so you're basically just going to want to go heel, sit, good girl. And then you can sometimes reward them with a treat, but sometimes it's best not to start your training with treats, or else they'll learn to expect treats. So those are just kind of an extra thing I give her. But that's how you do heel, and you just want to keep them always walking right by you. And when they're puppies, you're going to want to kind of just give them like a little bit of slack on their leash. But if they go too far, pull them up beside you again. And if they're a small puppy, you don't need to constantly be jerking on them. But that's about it. All right, now I'm going to teach you how to teach your dog to stay. All right, so this is definitely an extremely important trick, which is very necessary in just having a dog. So once you have sit down and heel and all that stuff, you can do stay. So for stay, you basically just want to get your dog, tell them to sit, And you want to, since you've got heel down, usually if you're heeling, you're going to use your left foot. But if you want them to stay, use your right foot. Sage has already learned the foot signals. So for stay, I'm going to move my right foot forward and leave the leash back. Now, usually if it's a puppy, it'll get up and try to come with you. So right when it gets up, you're going to put it back and put it back in the exact spot it was, and give it a little pop on the neck until it stay again, very firmly. You're going to keep trying this until they get it down, and pretty soon you'll have it down to where you can get further away and even drop the leash. And Sage has gotten it to where we can go completely out of sight and she'll stay where we tell her to for however long we want her to. So you just need to keep working with this. It takes some time, but it's very important. And next I'm going to teach you how to tell them to come, which is very important for your dog. All right, now I'm going to teach you how to show your dog how to come. Sit. Good girl. Stay. So once you have stay down, you can teach them how to come. This is actually something that you should do while you're teaching them how to stay. Once they actually stay in one place, you're going to want to be standing kind of in front of them. And when you want them to come, you're going to go down on your knees and get excited and kind of clap if you want and say come. Come! Good girl. Come here, Sage. Sit. Good girl. We like to tell Sage to sit whenever she comes, just because you should always have the dog in control, and basically that. So that's how to do come, and usually come is pretty easy. Some dogs will try to run off in an opposite direction, so it's a good idea when you're starting out to always have the leash on, and that way you can kind of pull them to you if they're not coming. And if you don't have a leash on and they're not cooperating, never run and try to chase the dog, because that's kind of an instinct for them to run away when you chase them. But if you run away from them, then they will follow you, usually. So that's one tip. So that is how you teach your dog to come. Alright, I'm going to be showing you how to teach your dog to fetch. Sit. So I'm just using a training bumper. This is what we use for teaching her how to duck hunt and everything. And fetch is also just a fun sport you can do with your dog, just for fun. So starting it out is always a little bit hard, and you just want to start when they're a puppy and do short throws, usually with the leash on, so you could just like toss it really close and tell them fetch it and have them on a leash. And once they get it, kind of pull them back to you. And this is how well Sage does now that she's fully grown. Alright, so here we go. Stay. Sage, fetch it. Good girl. Sage, come. Sit. Good girl. Give. Sit. So that is pretty much how she got it so far. She also knows blind retrieves, where we hide the bumper and she goes and finds it. We can even bury it and she'll go find it and dig it up and bring it back. She has a very good nose for smelling. But so when they're just puppies, you're going to want to start them out on a leash. Sit. This is what you're going to want to do when you're starting them out. You're going to want to have them on a leash, keep them pretty tight up so they can't go away. Make sure they know how to sit and all the basic commands first. And tell them to stay, and you're going to want to toss it just like right there. And then give them a little slack. Sage, fetch it. Come. Come. Sit. Good girl, give. Good girl. Sit. So that's basically it. She's probably a little confused why I'm doing such a short retrieve, because we don't do that anymore. But yeah, that's basically what you want to do. So you're basically just going to want to keep working on short retrieves like that, bring them in, and then eventually you can go ahead. You should probably keep the leash on for this, but you can get a far throw and have the leash on and tell them to come. Sage, stay. Sage, fetch it. Good girl, come. Good girl, come on, Sage. Good girl. Come on. Yep. Good girl. So for starting out, say they don't want to give the bumper to you. When they've brought it back, say they're biting onto it and won't let go, you're just going to want to jerk their neck a little, give them a pop, and say give firmly. And if they still won't let go, you're going to want to place your fingers on the corners of their mouth and kind of pry it open. But usually you won't have to do that. But that's basically just for starting out on fetch. And they'll get better as you go. You just need to keep working on it. You can get further and further and progress as you go. It's a good idea to get like a book or read an article on how to train just for further information. I'm not a professional, so I don't really know, professional way to do it, I guess you could say, but this is just what we've done and it's worked really well for Sage. So that's basically how you want to do that. Alright, now I'm going to demonstrate a blind retrieve. Sage is outside, as you can see, and I'm going to hide the bumper in here and she can't see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to get the bumper here, and Sage is outside, she can't see me. I'm going to take it and I'll hide it, say over here maybe, way out of sight, hidden. Alright? Sage, come. Good girl. Sit. Alright, so now I'm going to line her up in the direction she has to go. Sage, fetch it. Now she is going to use her nose entirely. She's going to sniff all over. Oh, she caught a whiff. Good girl. Come, Sage. And for doing blind retrieves, that takes a long time and a lot of practice, but they kind of have to earn your trust first and learn to trust you and what to do and everything, and then they'll eventually kind of get it, and you can start like placing it and letting them know where it is and then telling them to fetch it, and eventually you can work it up to where you can just hide it and they'll trust you and know that it's there and use their nose to find it. So that's how you teach your dog to fetch. Come here, Sage. This is something I taught Sage to do. I just get dog food. You don't even really need any training for this. It's just something they'll naturally do. I just hold the treat up and drop it, and she catches it in her mouth. She doesn't always catch it, but she really enjoys this. And I'm just using dog food, and I try not to do it too much so I don't throw up her meals, but I mean, it's just one piece of food at a time, so it's not a ton. And then I can start doing further things. Come, sit. Good girl. Like far throws. These are a lot harder. She doesn't always catch them. Good girl. She caught that one. Sit. Good girl. She caught that. Sit. Good girl. So yeah, this is Sage and her eating treats that I drop. This is how to teach your dog to go into their kennel on command. Come here, Sage. Sit. Alright, so this is Sage's crate. And so when you want your dog to go into their kennel, I would recommend starting out with a leash and choke chain on for this. But usually you would just start putting them into the kennel whenever you want them to go in, and just kind of putting them in by carrying them by the collar, and telling them kennel each time. And once they get used to the word, they eventually get used to it. Sage, kennel. Good girl. And they should stay in the kennel when you tell them to go into it. And you have to have a break word, like okay is what we use. You can say come, but it's best to have a break word. And so, Sage, okay. Good girl. So okay means she can just go do whatever she wants, as you can see. But like I said, you want to start them out by taking them by the collar and putting them in, and eventually you can start telling them to sit right in front of it. Sage, sit. And kind of like being by them to like guide them by the collar in case they decide to swerve off to some other direction. But tell them to go in, and by using the kennel word, and they should listen. Sage, kennel. But like I said, when you start out, you want to kind of guide them and make sure they go in. If they don't mind or go in, you should probably give them a pop of the choke chain or a spanking. And they should eventually get it. It's a very useful technique for if you just want to put your dog in the kennel. And we like to do something for training with food. I'll just do a little bit of food, for example. So I'll get her bowl in a second. A little bit of food. Now she absolutely loves food. Most dogs do. So this is kind of it takes a lot of control, and you have to get them pretty well trained in order to do this. I'm going to tell Sage to come to me and run right past the food without eating any of it. Sage, come. Good girl, sit. Kennel. Now she had to walk directly over, Kennel. She had to walk directly over the food, and she still didn't get a bite of it, which it took us a long time to get her this way. Okay. And it does take a while, but it's a lot of training of just obedience training and making them listen to you when you want them to. So that is how to teach your dog to go into their kennel. Alright, this is how to teach your dog to go into their kennel on command. Sorry.